He says we're not out of the woods yet, but that actually the economy is more resilient than many had feared. Is that your take on today's announcement?
Up to a point, yes. But if you look at what's been going on since December, because those figures that we saw today looked at the last quarter, this quarter is already starting rather badly in the sense that we've got data for manufacturing, for services and construction, which show a further decline in activity in January. And the expectation is that it's not going to be much better in February, which is where we are now. So the first quarter, by most calculations, is probably going to see a decline in GDP. And also, of course, we may get revisions as far as last quarter and the quarter before is concerned. There was a revision already that the middle quarter or the third quarter of 2022 only dropped by 0.2%. This last quarter of 2022, quarter four, saw practically stagnation. Anything could happen to reverse that figure down or perhaps also up, frankly. But the indications are nevertheless that this slowdown in activity that was very evident in December, we had a 0.5% fall in the month, we must remember that, is continuing in 2023.
So, Mark, I think what Vicky's saying is, whilst it may not technically be a recession, for some it will feel like a recession nonetheless.
Yes, I agree with everything Vicky's just said. Sometimes I think we get a bit over-obsessed about, are we technically in recession or technically not in recession? The truth is, if these statistics are accurate, we've avoided a recession, I think, by 0.01% of GDP. Hardly anything to be particularly pleased about. So the real broad brush picture, I think, is that's much more interesting and much more challenging is, even if by a whisker we're avoiding recession, why is our general growth rate so disappointing? Somewhere around 0%. We can argue if it's just dipped below 0 or is just above 0. I agree with Vicky that I'd actually, as a guess, expect the first quarter of 2023 to be probably quite grim figures. But nevertheless, the broad picture is that in rough and ready terms, we're flatlining. And that is an extremely disappointing long-term position for the United Kingdom to be in. So we need to, I think, relook at what the government's doing, its spending patterns, our tax rates, the scale of regulation, in order to try to get back to what have been the historical normal growth rates of around about 2 or 3% per annum that now look heroically optimistic as growth rates now in 2023.
And Mark, you mentioned taxation there. Of course, there's this announcement, I think it might have been an announcement made some time ago, but it's been talked about today, of AstraZeneca deciding to build this new factory in the Republic of Ireland. And of course, their corporation tax, as we know, is 12.5%. Ours is now about to rise to double that, to 25%. I mean, that is a problem, is it not?
Yes, I mean, tax rates have consequences. We assume if I guess the starting assumption is if you dial up the rates, you'll bring more revenue into the Treasury. But of course, taxation has dynamic effects. It has effects on people's behaviour. And AstraZeneca, I think their reasoning was more around the NHS levy, a complex interrelationship between private pharmaceutical companies and the National Health Service. But you're quite right, Arlene, that, high corporation tax, all things equal, will deter investment. No great surprise that companies find the Republic of Ireland's rate rather attractive and Britain's rate rather unattractive. And I would say it's even worse than that, really. High taxation can be a deterrent, but so can uncertain taxation. It was only a few months ago when Jeremy Hunt, now the Chancellor, was running to be the leader of the Conservative Party, who was advocating a corporation tax rate of 15%. Then we had the Truss administration making it 19%, and now it's 25%. So whatever the rate, I think businesses like some sort of degree of certainty about taxation, and successive British governments haven't really provided them with that, especially not over the last 12 months.
And certainly, Vicky, there's been plenty of certainty around the taxation rate in the Republic of Ireland. It's been 12.5% for a long, long time now. What's your take on this decision from AstraZeneca?
Well, it's bad news. There's no doubt about that. And we've seen also some of that in the manufacturing sector more generally, including the car industry. It remains to be seen what happens next. We know that we are having difficulty even establishing a proper manufacturing of batteries, so we'll miss out on the electric vehicle revolution, if you like. But there is no doubt that companies are looking for some certainty, and I agree with Mark on that. The interesting thing, though, about Ireland, just to think about that for a second, is that, of course, they do have a very low corporation tax rate, but they also are probably going to be coming under this new obligation, which is to have a minimum global corporation tax for multinationals. So whether that rate will stay at 12.5% is another factor.
Well, they've managed to keep it for quite a while, as I think you know, Vicky. That's Vicky Price and Mark Littlewood joining me to discuss the recession that didn't happen today, but which may well happen in the near future. Thank you both so much.